Welcome back to the program. You're watching Newsnight. Remember, you can keep texting us. 22422 is the SMS line and hashtag is Newsnight. LSK President Nelson Havi on standby for our short discussion for now. But first, let's take a look at this story. Now, members of parliament, allied to Deputy President William Ruto, say they will engage in civil disobedience as a response to the National Security Advisory Committee's directives on public gatherings, meetings and processions. The legislators say they will not cave in to what they term as pressure from the government for associating with Deputy President William Ruto, terming the Public Order Act as unconstitutional.
Na tungetaka kuambia police officers wakianza na Inspector General of Police, don't be misused by a government that has already 2 years to go. Hiyo maswali utakuja kujibu kwa serikali nyingine.
The Constitution gives us the right to assemble and associate with anyone we want to associate with. Therefore, if your problem is us associating and assembling where the Deputy President is, we will assemble. And we will respect the rule of law. But any law that is unconstitutional, we are obligated as citizens to exercise civil disobedience against that law.
And on the back of that story, joining me for a reaction live in studio is the LSK President Nelson Havi. Thank you so much for making time for Newsnight. Mr. President, you've listened to that statement from MPs allied to Tanga Tanga, and we have also seen you going to court on the same matter. Tonight, what's your reaction on this debate currently raging in the public?
Section 5 of the Public Order Act is a colonial relic. It was used by the colonial government to suppress wananchi at that particular time. Immediately after independence, it has been used. After the IPPG initiative, politicians agreed to remove the restrictive sections of that act in order that all that will be required for one to hold a meeting, a public rally, was to notify the police. Why notify the police? So that if the venue is otherwise occupied by another group, there should be no confrontation between the two groups. However, lately, and despite a transformative constitution, there appear to be a concerted effort to claw back on the gains made in the constitution by suppressing the freedom of expression and the freedom of association. No wonder, therefore, the Law Society went to court yesterday seeking to declare Section 5 itself as unconstitutional and also to declare the directives that were given by the National Security Advisory Committee as inconsistent with the Constitution and as unlawful.
You seem to have some very strong views on that, and I want to hear, this on a related note. We did hear the National Security Advisory Committee actually making that announcement last week. My question to you is, do you think that committee has the same legal force as the National Security Council, which is in the Constitution?
The National Security Council is anchored in the Constitution itself. The committee was a creation of the contested security amendment laws. If you were to examine it from that perspective, you realize that the committee does not seem to have any justifiable legal existence because it is created outside the confine of the Constitution. But more intriguingly is the fact that we are told the committee formulates regulations and policies for adoption and ratification by the cabinet. Therein lies the problem, because the cabinet is given a peculiar role by the Constitution. And the cabinet is mandated by the Constitution itself to act within the confine of the Constitution. What about this nebulous body called the committee? And unless there is something that we do not know, I honestly believe that that committee does not have any mandate to issue the directives that it did.
So in your legal view, those directives are not legally binding? Is that what you say tonight?
They're not legally binding. But we have submitted the matter to court for determination.
Okay.
It is our expectation that the court will find it proper to examine those directives and declare them unconstitutional.
Okay. We're going to get a bit deeper into that, when we come back after the break. But one last thing. What did you discuss, Mr. President, with the clerk of the National Assembly yesterday over that cup of tea in that cordial meeting?
Yesterday, we notified the clerk of the National Assembly that the term of parliamentarians has come to an end. And effective yesterday, anybody who comes to parliament buildings claiming to be a parliamentarian will be a trespasser. The clerk of the National Assembly notified us that he will communicate our grievance to the two speakers as well as to the parliamentarians, but insisted that they have gone to court. There is an order for stay, and it is on the basis of that order for stay that he perceives our demand that they vacate Parliament buildings is not based upon sound legal arguments.
Mm-hmm. And because he said that, and I know I do need to take the break, but I must ask this now. Senator Ledama Olekina, concerned tonight, asking you, do you obey court orders yourself?
Of course, we do obey court orders, but let me remind my very good friend and client, Ledama Olekina.
Good friend and client?
Yes, he is my good friend and client.
Mm-hmm.
That the Constitution had in place a self-protective mechanism that shields it from challenge. It says no part of the Constitution shall be challenged before a court of law or any other state organ. We have a parliament that has been unconstitutional from the 27th of August 2015. What is the propriety of an illegal entity going to court to seek relief? It is a nullity ab initio.
Mm-hmm.
And it must be understood that it is this very parliament, as well as the Attorney General, who originates bills for Parliament to consider, that have disobeyed the court orders that relate to this particular matter. And I'm really saddened that somebody like Ledama Olekina...
And it's not just him. There are many messages coming in of a similar nature, that you who swore to follow the law and court orders, first as an advocate, and obviously as the president of the LSK, yesterday seemed to go contrary to an existing court order that Parliament should not be dissolved until the petitions are heard.
No, there is no prohibition against protest, against assembly in respect of this particular matter. And indeed, last week, Parliament did ask the judge before whom this matter was first submitted to restrain the Law Society from holding a procession to Parliament. The judge said this: one, the Law Society is not a party to this litigation. And two, I, as a judge, cannot restrict the exercise of a protest, provided it's conducted within the confine of the law. And you saw yesterday an unprecedented approach that was taken by 20 members of the Law Society and other affiliate organizations.
Out of a 14,000 member society.
Wahiga, if you look at history,
yes,
the Entebbe raid was conducted by a few men who just disembarked out of a Hercules cargo plane.
Okay.
Osama bin Laden was brought down by how many men? 6. You don't require the entire United States Air Force or Army to go and execute a mission. We did occupy Parliament as we had promised the people.
I have many more questions for you, but I'm told I need to take that break. We're going to continue from that point after we quickly take you through some stories. You're watching Newsnight. Please keep tweeting. Hashtag Newsnight, SMS line 22422. Mr. President, you can take a quick break now. I hope you've been served a cup of tea. And we'll talk a bit more about that when we come back. You're watching Newsnight. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, he's been at the helm of the Law Society of Kenya for almost 9 months now. I'm talking about Nelson Andai Havi, who rode on a wave of popular support to become president of the Law Society of Kenya and has since embarked on the execution of the role in a manner that has attracted divided opinion. For example, just yesterday, the LSK president moved in on Parliament with a recent advice by Chief Justice David Maraga that the Houses of Parliament be dissolved for failing to pass legislation on the 2/3 gender rule. But the Occupy Parliament initiative that promised a storm ended up with a cup of tea in the usually comfortable lounges of Parliament. At this moment, we want to get into that interview as we discuss his style to his rhetoric, and as we also discuss the Law Society of Kenya and the judiciary as well. Joining me back in studio is LSK President Nelson Havi. Thanks again for staying with us. And I want to pick up where we left off. Let's take a look at some of those pictures again. We put them up on the screen. What was finally yesterday the Occupy Parliament. And I want to ask you this, Mr. President. Occupy Parliament, we assume, was borrowed from Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Washington, where thousands of people rallied together for a particular cause. We did not see thousands of lawyers yesterday, neither did we see hundreds or even tens of hundreds, or I'm even going down in descending order, so to speak. We saw about 14 or so. What did that tell you Because you expected more, I imagine, to show up for this.
Waiga, I didn't expect more. I live within my expectations. And I always proceed from the premise that obstacles are the things you see when you remove your eyes from the target. My eyes are on the target. We wrote to the two speakers of the National Assembly as well as the clerks on the 9th of October and told them we will come to Parliament 20 of us. And we were 20 of us who went to Parliament. It is therefore not correct for anybody to say that we were expecting a multitude. We didn't want to go with the multitude because going with the multitude will have contravened the COVID regulations, and that is not what we wanted to do on that particular day. On that particular day was a special delegation of the leaders of the three groups, the Law Society of Kenya, United Green Movement, and We Are 52, because these two entities have been at the forefront of calling for the upholding of the rule of law and constitutionalism. And the peak of this call was a follow-up on the advisory by the Chief Justice David Maraga to the President of the Republic of Kenya to dissolve Parliament. Our message to the clerk reached. And I can tell you what the clerk told me in the presence of the 20 of us, that the decision by the Chief Justice was unexpected. It was unprecedented. And there are those who may want to belittle this issue as a tea party. It's not a tea party. You remember in the book of Genesis, when Noah was asked to build the ark, many ridiculed him. He built the ark. What were they doing? They were taking their neighbors' daughters into marriage. They were having ceremonies, they were having parties. And it came to pass. No wonder you can see the clerk completely confounded with what is facing.
But Mr. President, apologies for interrupting you on this one. The expectation that you set, because it sounds like you simply went to Parliament to deliver a statement. Why didn't you just say that? When you start using a hashtag Occupy Parliament, 12th is the last day, it almost sounded like you wanted to physically eject parliamentarians from Parliament, lock the gates. You're not allowed in here anymore. Your statement set the stage for what Kenyans believe was going to be a Occupy Parliament yesterday, and you can imagine their surprise when they saw what actually happened. You set the stage for this, Mr. President, did you not?
Yes, there are two modules to this. One is the Burkinabe module of setting Parliament ablaze. The other module is the Malawi module of a peaceful protestation to ensure that there's restoration of constitutional order. All these are options that are available. Does the Burkinabe module augur very well for us? I do not think so, because we are advocates of the High Court of Kenya. We conduct our business in accordance with the law. You see, there are those who are accustomed to those demonstrations that are characterized with drama, stone throwing, chanting, and so forth. It cannot be expected of an advocate of the High Court of Kenya to do that. And it is because of the manner in which we carried ourselves that we did not meet any confrontation from the police. But let us not run away from the narrative. The story that the people of Kenya need to realize is this, that Parliament has become illegitimate. Why has Parliament become illegitimate? There are so many reasons. One is failure to pass the 2/3 gender rules. And in 2012, the Supreme Court made it very clear that if these laws are not passed in good time, Parliament risks being unconstitutional. Parliament itself is not compliant with 2/3 gender rule, let alone passing the rules. Thirdly, Parliament has failed to oversight the President of the Republic of Kenya insofar as cabinet appointments are made. The late Justice Onguto made a decision that Parliament had failed to ensure that the President complied with the 2/3 gender rule.
Fair enough, Mr. President.
And gave them 8 months to comply. Parliament has failed to sanction the President of the Republic of Kenya for blatant refusal to swear in 41 judges. Now we have 40 judges because my very good friend Harrison Ongweno died on Sunday. This is the predicament that the President of the Republic of Kenya has put the law-abiding people of Kenya into.
And I was going to get into that shortly. I guess my issue is, and a question that many Kenyans are asking tonight, we know how we got to this, and you've clearly painted a picture of how we found ourselves here. Mr. Havi, you've been at the forefront of a campaign for the obedience of court orders, which is why many asked yesterday, how difficult was it for you to wait for the High Court or the court to hear the petitions that are there before them, before carrying out the act that you did? For you, when is it appropriate for the judiciary to interpret the Constitution, and when is it not appropriate? Because where there are disputes, it is clear in law that it's up to the judiciary to help interpret the Constitution. But it sounds like yesterday that the Law Society of Kenya had the final word. How do you respond to those who feel that?
No, those who feel that may not have the benefit of examining the history of the Kenyan courts. I will take you back to the period about 2011, when the newly constituted Judicial Service Commission was recruiting judges for the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice. On the hot seat was one judge, Riaga Omolo, and he was asked, why did you make the decision in Kibaki versus Moi? Why did you make the decision in Matiba versus Moi, saying that somebody who cannot write has no business whatsoever becoming president? You see, these things come to haunt you. As a judge, you may make these decisions under coercion or pressure from the state. It does not mean that your judgment will not be impugned in future. Much later, I think it was in 2012, during the vetting of my teacher and very good friend, former Judge Njagi, he was asked, why did you transfer the property of Kenya School of Law? What did he say? That I looked at the person who had come to me and it looked like he had a gun. A judge is supposed to be immune from this peril because first he has security of tenure and he has sworn to uphold the Constitution. What does the Constitution say about an article thereof? It says an article of this Constitution shall not be challenged before a court of law or any other state.
Is it in order for you to sit on national TV and impugn the motives of a judge on something you clearly are not happy about? What happens then if every legal mind in this country, Mr. President, was to do that? Because that's the path you're taking us. You're giving us reasons as to why judges may go contrary to the law, for example. What does that do for the institution of the judiciary? How do ordinary Kenyans trust the judiciary if what you're saying is true?
I'm not imputing any motive. In fact, the two judges who made these decisions, and that is Justice Weldon Korir and Justice Makau, have been distinguished as the judges who have stood for the rule of law lately. These two judges are members of the Law Society, and it is incumbent upon myself as the chief servant of the lawyers to come to their protection. And we know we have a belligerent executive. We have an emasculated legislature, which has become illegitimate. These two institutions...
Illegitimate in what manner?
Just let me finish.
When you make a statement like that, I will need to question it.
You see,
finish and then
I've already explained why Parliament is illegitimate. And if you could just allow me...
You said executive.
No, I said Parliament.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you for that clarification. Go ahead.
I said the executive has become overbearing.
Okay.
And Parliament is emasculated and has lately become illegitimate.
Fair point. Carry on.
You understand?
Fair point.
Now, we are saying this to cushion the judicial process so that these two judges do not tell us 10 years from now that I got a call from State House that the person who came to my chambers appeared as if he's carrying a gun. And it must be remembered, judges cannot express themselves. It is our obligation as advocates, it is your obligation as the media to highlight these events. And this matter terminated in the Court of Appeal, having commenced from the High Court. I believe, bearing in mind the constitutional provisions, that Parliament and the Attorney General are not being honest with the people of Kenya when they seek to challenge a decision made by the Chief Justice, to challenge the bona fides of Article 2 61 sub-article 7, which dictates that Parliament ought to be dissolved if it fails to enact 2/3 gender compliant rules.
So do two wrongs make a right? If what you're suggesting about the other side is correct, and you've made fair points,
yes.
Does it then help that Nelson Havi then yesterday seemingly disobeyed a court order and also falls into the same trap? Because in future, those who break court orders would say that what is good for the LSK president is good for us.
Wahiga, if there was a court order against what we're doing yesterday, it would have been brought to attention. There is no court order, and the judge himself said in his own words that I will not restrain the Law Society of Kenya or any other law-abiding Kenyan from holding a protest, from going to Parliament, for two reasons. Insofar as the Law Society is concerned, they are not a party to this case, they are not a party to the order he made. And secondly, the right to protest is one that is given by the Constitution, and it cannot be curtailed if it is being exercised in a peaceful manner. So there is no court order that we are contravening.
But we do know that there is a court order that has prevented President Uhuru Kenyatta from dissolving Parliament, awaiting the hearing of petitions, of which the LSK is a part of. So by actually discussing the merits of the case on social media, for example, and you do tweet about it quite a bit, you fall into the trap of sub judice as well. And again, I'm speaking to you as the LSK president. Again, you don't see any issue. You don't see any.
Wahiga,
yes,
there is a term called intellectual stagnation. We have demonstrated with sufficiency of facts and the law that there is no prohibition against a protest. So could we kindly progress this argument and discuss issues that are germane to Kenya? Because this is prime time. And when you have the president of the Law Society of Kenya before the people... He
had to answer questions that Kenyans are asking you, Mr. President. So I don't mind falling into intellectual stagnation if I'll get the answers.
You give him the opportunity to tell the people what the correct position in law is.
Okay, so if we want us to wrap this up, my only question then would be, so you see no issue with what you did yesterday?
Well, if there is anybody who sees an issue with what we did yesterday...
Some legal minds do.
Then that person is the problem. And it is a big problem. It must be understood that the 2/3 gender rule was intended to ensure gender parity and equity, to ensure that your grandmother and my grandmother, your mother and my mother, our wives, our children, have a right at the table so that they get equal opportunity to be appointed to the cabinet. They get equal opportunity to be elected to the National Assembly and the Senate. And history will judge us unfairly if now, with this transformative constitution, we do not ensure that the women of Kenya benefit from this right. And on my part, I say I want to be judged fairly by history. As the advocate, as the father, as the son, as the grandchild of these women who took it upon himself, despite ridicule and castigation, to ensure that Parliament does the right thing, to ensure that the President of the Republic of Kenya does the right thing. And I still believe that the President of the Republic of Kenya is a law-abiding citizen, notwithstanding the wrong advice that has been given by his main advisors, which advice seems to prevail all over. You see, if that sanity prevails, Kenya will prosper, Kenya will progress, will have good governance. We do not have good governance because we cannot ascribe to the simple ideals that have been given to us by the Constitution. That what? Let us have a minimum of 1/3 of women or 1/3 of men in appointive or elective offices. Mm-hmm. What is so difficult in Parliament? What is so difficult in the President? Giving the women of Kenya this thing. He said he values his mother so much. I'm sure he values his daughter. I'm sure he values all those women that are around him. Why can't he do the correct thing? Why doesn't he want to be remembered as the president who empowered the women of Kenya? We saw how President Moi empowered women by ensuring that in areas where women were marginalized, they were given preferential treatment to join high school, to join universities. And that is why we have so many women that are lawyers.
Okay.
We have so many women that are professors.
You've made your point, and a fair point at that. But I want to ask you this. 9 months into your term so far, and I think you have another year and a couple of months to go.
Yes.
One of the promises that you made as you were campaigning was on this issue of 41 judges.
Yes.
In fact, at some point you gave a deadline that within a week, if the judges are not sworn in, you will take various people to court, including the president himself. We saw you moving a motion within the LSK to remove from the role of advocates the Attorney General, the Solicitor General as well. None of that seems to have worked tonight, Mr. President. What are your next steps on this particular matter, which has become a contentious one? And may I also add condolences to the family that lost one of the 41 judges this weekend.
You see, Shakespeare said that you jest at scars, you never felt a wound. The people who feel the wound of the failure of the president to swear judges are not David Kanani Maraga. It's not me. If I want my case heard fast, I'll have it heard fast. It is not Uhuru Kenyatta. It is the Mwananchi. It is the Wanjiku.
How will you have your case heard first? That sounds very interesting.
I will have my case heard first.
How?
Because I will make a certificate of urgency and go and plead to be given preferential treatment. And listen, Wegwa.
Yes, Wahiga.
Wahiga, sorry.
Go ahead.
If you had given me some tea, we'll be having a very cordial discussion. But because you didn't give me tea, you're just drinking water by yourself.
I thought Michael Sialai, the clerk, had already given you the tea that I wouldn't have to do.
Okay, so the point is this. I can vouch for myself. I cannot vouch for many other advocates. I cannot vouch for many other people who act in person. So those are the people who suffer. And if there is anybody who is advising the president that by failing to swear in these judges, you are punishing Havi, you're not punishing Havi. You are punishing the people. You are punishing your own legacy. And we did two things. We initiated proceedings to expel the Attorney General and the Solicitor General. But they went to court and got an order that stayed those proceedings. And we are law-abiding. During the AGM, despite demands by members that we crucify Jesus and spare Barabbas, I said, no, we can't go on. We also indicated that we'll petition Parliament to impeach the president. But you see, Parliament has suffered a natural death. It cannot impeach the president because it is illegitimate. To that extent, we have performed our part. And I dare say, and you remember when we were here a few days before the election, I set out my 3-point agenda to monitor legislation. We've monitored legislation to the extent that we have come to the satisfaction that this parliament cannot pass good laws, and we have obtained an advisor for its dissolution. Mission accomplished. What about the rule of law and constitutionalism? We have held the executive accountable on all those executive orders they have made, all administrative decisions that do not conform with the Constitution. We've been there to speak. We've gone to court. We've taken action. What about the practice law environment? We've ensured that the courts are able to open, notwithstanding the pandemic that is prevailing. We have ensured that the legislation that is in court takes into account the welfare of advocates, youthful and senior. But more importantly, we continue demanding that courts open fully. We continue demanding that the land registry opens fully. And may I send my sincere condolences to my very good friend, CS Farida Karunei, following today's tragic loss of her father. But what am I saying? I'm saying that the Law Society is now being felt.
Some say what is being felt is your abrasive style of leadership. In your view, is that necessarily a good thing?
You know, if you are in the wilderness, you're able to identify where an elephant has passed and where an antelope has passed. Members of the Law Society knew who I was. They elected me knowing who I am. They needed a brave new bar, one that will be felt, one that will speak and act, one that will come to the defense of the lawyers, one that will come to the defense of judges and members of the public. And that is what they are receiving. And look, you see, democracy has unpredictable outcomes. There are those who are dissatisfied. They are still in electioneering mode. Many of my members are still in electioneering mode. Many of my council members still think we are in election, so that they can go and side with the government to pursue a particular cause. But this is democracy. The greater good of the society, the greater good of Kenyan public is being felt under the leadership of your very good friend, Nelson Havi.
Were some of the tenets of the Brave New Bar, including the use of less than savory words on tweets? And I'll give you an example. We have a tweet that you posted yesterday in response to a comment by Homa Bay woman rep Gladys Wanga. We have that on the screen. I think she tweeted something, and this was your response to her. You said, and I quote, "I have a file on Gladys Wanga when President Uhuru Kenyatta wanted her jailed in 2017 for insulting him with unprintable words. If an elected MP can insult the president, what more can she not do? I spent a lot of time and money defending her pro bono." I can't read the last part, but it's "let her be useless woman." Useless woman, Mr. President, sounds sexist. It sounds unbecoming for the president of the Law Society of Kenya.
You see, when I address a Gladys Wanga, I'm not addressing a woman. I'm addressing a state officer. And we must...
So why not useless state officer?
Just a minute.
For argument's sake.
We must get out of this false construct that because somebody is a woman, then she is supposed to be treated in a particular way.
No. My issue is the wording of your tweet, Mr. President.
What if I said useless man?
Then we'll be having a different discussion.
Will you get offense with it?
You said useless woman. Why useless woman?
She is a useless woman. She's not a man.
That's not a fair comment to make, Mr. President. What does her gender have to do with her performance as a state officer?
We are not addressing gender here. We are addressing state officers.
But you addressed it in your tweet, Mr. President. That's what I want to...
How would you have preferred I call her?
You just said it. Useless state officer. If that is your issue.
Because Gladys Wanga is one of the beneficiaries of affirmative action. It was incumbent upon her when in Parliament to expand the environment for fellow women to succeed. And when we push for the dissolution of Parliament, when we want to assert the 2/3 gender principle, it is these women who come to oppose us. They belittle what we're doing. You see, the word useless is an English term meaning of no use.
You see no problem with that tweet?
No.
Till today, Mr. President.
You can't wrestle with English. If you want to wrestle with the English,
you see no need to apologize. You're fighting for women, and yet you tweet such a term. You see no challenge with that.
I want women in office to be of use to themselves, to be useful. The opposite of useful is useless. It's as simple as that. I have no apologies.
Now
I take time before constructing my sentences. But you see, I do not want us to spend so much time because Gladys Wanga has decided to undress herself in public. In my tradition, we do not continue undressing her.
I think that is not a fair term to use. I don't think anyone has done that, Mr. President. Which brings me back to my question. Again, your style, and you've said it's what the Law Society wanted. But is that good? I mean, even this discussion that we're having now would have been so unnecessary if you hadn't posted that as part of your style.
It's because
is it good? So let me ask you this. Let's look at the bigger... Yes, and I still do want you to apologize.
No, not apologize.
You've said no. Is it good for sober national discourse?
It is good for sober national discourse.
Let me finish. Is it good for you as the president of the LSK in terms of how you are projected? You create enemies that you did not have to when you make statements like those, for example.
You see, if you are a leader and you do not have enemies, it is an indicator that you are not impactful. You must always acknowledge this. You understand? And I've told you, democracy has unpredictable outcomes. Look at the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga. I mean, they all had almost an equal number of people. They are entitled to their divergent opinion. And these opinions must always be held, however strongly they may appear to the other group. And what I need to emphasize is this. The Law Society was accustomed to laxity for the 4 years preceding my election. What you're seeing now is buoyancy, an active bar. And an active bar is bound to offend people. But what you need to look at is the environment in which we are serving. What you need to look at are the benefits that we are giving to the advocates and the members of the public. Look, I must admit, I'm not perfect, you understand? And where I've wronged anybody, I will always apologize. But just a minute.
Okay.
But where somebody has taken it upon herself to come and confront me unfairly, somebody who is a state officer, somebody who is a lawmaker, who is supposed to be on the forefront of advocating for the rights of women, and not just women, everybody, takes such a perilous course, she is entitled to receive equal measure of firepower.
So you have no problem with criticism, but there is a line that you feel was crossed.
Yes, she crossed the line.
You welcome all criticism,
yes.
but
even on my part, I welcome criticism. I'm caricatured every day. You understand? I'm ridiculed. I don't take offense.
Let me read your tweet here from John Buddy, Chair ODM. He says, and I quote, it's just disappeared, Havi should be ready to entertain divergent opinions. Others also accommodate a lot from him. And you said you're ready to receive criticism. So let me place one before you that your critics say has become a sign of the LSK that you run.
Yes.
A one-man show. Havi is LSK. LSK is Havi. Your critics don't like that perception. And they feel that that is what you have reduced the LSK to.
But
what do you say to that?
Let me do this. And I want to acknowledge the enormous support I get from the council members. And it will surprise you to note that a majority of my council members are actually ladies. We are 3 men and 10 women. And I've posted photographs of us in my office with those ladies, and they do a great work. This 2/3 gender initiative was not my initiative. This was the initiative of the chair of the gender committee, my very good friend, Beth Michoma. She banned the midnight oil, together with Faith Odhiambo, together with Herin Kabita, and my very good Vice President, Caroline Kamende. They're the ones who are behind this initiative. But what do? I come like the cock in the midst to give them cover. And often, it is the cock that will receive appraisal. And I'm here prepared to receive the flak on behalf of the good women that the members of the Law Society of Kenya gave me. Havi is not a one-man show. And if you look at the history of the Law Society, I'm the first president of the Law Society who, when holding a press conference, gives opportunity to the council members to speak if a particular issue relates to their committees. Have you ever seen this before?
Some say that, and that's a fair point that you've raised, that perception alone is not enough. Does the council have the opportunity to say no to Mr. Havi if they feel that the way he's going is not correct? There are motions, maybe you've moved within the council that have been turned down internally. Is that the kind of LSK that we have right now?
I'm not aware of any complaint that I've pushed for a particular agenda to go. In fact, we work very harmoniously. And as I've told you, most of these ideas you see me propelling are not of my origination. You see, it is said, if you have wider shoulders, you will experience more rain than somebody with a, with a small span. I'm a little bit dominant and visible, so that anything that is done by the Law Society will always be seen as having been done by Nelson Havi. And I'm happy, because I take the bag and the baggage. It comes together. And for the entire duration of my term as president of the Society, I'll take responsibility for the success and the failure of the Law Society. Because this is a mandate that was given by these lawyers. And I dare say, by many Kenyans, not that just lawyers, because many people who are not lawyers campaigned for me. They gave me money. They gave me support. They asked their lawyers to vote for me. So it is incumbent upon me to ensure that what I do does not just benefit lawyers, but they benefit everybody. And I can tell you, if we go to the streets, you will see how happy people are about what I do.
One of the allegations, and you said you won't apologize to have, fair enough to you. You have the right of freedom of speech, and you can agree to or disagree to apologize. One of the allusions that was made in that tweet by Honorable Gladys Wanga was that you are on Tanga payroll, that you have political persuasions or political leanings, and one would also question your dalliance, for lack of a better word, with the United Green Party for an LSK that is supposed to remain politically non-aligned. How do you respond to those that feel that you are playing too closely with the political sides? When you hear members of parliament saying we are moving to court, next you see Nelson Havi on who's gone to court and seems to be speaking in tandem with Tanga Members.
There is a
for
hymn.
Example. What are your political leanings?
There is a hymn which says, stand up for Jesus the soldier.
Okay.
You see, where there is fire, where there is trouble, I'm there. If they arrest a member of parliament affiliated to Tangatanga, Kieleweke or ODM, you will find Havi there. And I do this not out of pay. I do it out of duty because the practice of law is a vocation.
Is it Havi as the lawyer or Havi as the president of the LSK? Which of you steps up to that plate? Help us understand.
The one that steps to that plate is Havi, the president of the Law Society, and Havi, the lawyer. And what I'm doing now is what I was doing even before I was elected. And it is this that endeared me to many lawyers. It is this that endeared me to members of the public. Do I have political ambitions? The office I hold is a political office. So it is inimical to the cause of democracy to ask me if I have a political ambition.
It sounds like you've answered affirmative.
I have a political ambition. I want to remain president, but not the president of the Law Society of Kenya. Have I answered you?
So which president is that? I know.
Figure out.
Okay. You've answered a question before I even asked it. So again, I still ask again, you don't have political allegiances?
I don't have political allegiances. I can tell you, I've acted for Uhuru Kenyatta's family. I've acted against William Ruto. I've acted against and for the associates of Raila Amolo Odinga. I mean, I've acted for almost every politician here. So for you to associate me with a particular cause, it is quite misleading. But it has become the norm that whoever speaks for the rule of law must always be associated with Deputy President Dr. William Ruto. I don't have any apologies for that. Why do I say so? Because I've always been on the correct path. It happens to be that often those on the other side veer off from their wrong tangent and come to the correct path. So if we meet on my path, why should I be blamed? And I'll continue defending the rights of everybody, be it somebody affiliated to Uhuru Kenyatta, be it somebody affiliated to William Ruto, be it somebody affiliated to Raila Amolo Odinga, anybody. It is my responsibility to do that. And I will do that for as long as I'm alive. And I pray that God gives me the energy to continue defending as many as possible of those people that are unpopular.
I need to move on and wrap this up, but for those who say it's not a coincidence that dissolved parliament is being spearheaded by Havi, LSK, again, one-man show, and Tanga, it's not a coincidence for some?
No. Sometime in July, a group of ladies calling them the Women of Kenya, led by Daisy Amdanyi, and Jerotich Sei, Jeptum Bulut, and Marilyn Kamuru, came to me and said, Havi, we had been pleading with your two predecessors to give propulsion to this cause. They didn't. Now that you've met us, could you please push this wave to show so that the women of Kenya can benefit? Look, what do I stand to benefit as Nelson Havi from the dissolution of parliament? Nothing whatsoever. But what do the people of Kenya stand to benefit? This is not my initiative, and I do not want to take credit for it. However, I want to be the one that creates the wind that enables the women of Kenya sail through their agenda. I'll tell you this, and you've seen my mother speak. I speak like my mother. I'm here because of my mother. And I want those women who are like my mother, lesser or higher, to succeed. In fact, I pray that this parliament be dissolved. I go and campaign for my mother to run for office.
Not for yourself?
No, I don't need to be in parliament right now.
Okay.
And I don't need to be in parliament at any other time. If I have to lead, if I have to serve the people of Kenya, I want to serve in a bigger role, not as a member of parliament, not as a member of the Senate.
What's that? Okay, now you're getting my interest aroused. What bigger role?
You see, as president of the Law Society, my constituency is national. It's national. It's wide. You understand? And if the people of Kenya desire that I serve in any other capacity bigger than where I am, I'll willingly want to do that. Because my experience has shown that we have a problem with Kenyan leadership. And I can only quote what my good professor and teacher, PLO, says. The problem is this: those with ideas are not in power, and those in power have no ideas. It is as simple as that. And I want us, and when Parliament will be dissolved, people with ideals, good governance, integrity, people who do not want to enrich themselves when they get into Parliament, to vie for office. I want you to run because you will make a good leader.
I have no
and
interest,
if you can't run, let somebody you know run.
Okay.
There is a problem in Kenya.
I want to pause you on that point. Let's take a look at feedback. I have some. We were supposed to be done by now, Mr. President, but when you're interviewing a lawyer,
don't worry, we can go on until...
no, I need to let the viewers sleep. They have another day to go to work tomorrow. Okay, Cherui Kimutai says, it's not a crime to take tea as long as the agenda and focus is one. It will never divert the attention and objective of the whole thing. Nelson Havi is on the right track, okay? That's a praise to you. Okay, Evans Milo, Nelson Havi, sharp, free thinker who follows the law to the letter. Congratulations, Havi. Save Kenya. Kenyans are behind you, okay? Those are two. Supporting you, Mr. President. Washika Ken, you say Kenyans can't get enough. Complaints should always be there when you're trying your best. I think Nelson Havi has tried to revive LSK. It's the only hope we have as far as our constitution is concerned. Okay, you seem to have convinced some. I was going to say confused. No, convinced. Convinced some, maybe confused others, but convinced. Bor Collins, it's a tall order for the president to occupy Parliament. Fact, good move, but not tenable. Lawyers are divided on this one. We can only wait for President Uhuru's decision. Okay, do we have another one or two? Okay, I'm told we have a last one. Felix Wano, Mr. President, you hyped the whole idea of Parliament takeover by LSK, but instead it was turned into a cordial meeting. We are told about tea, samosas, and sausages which were served. What is your next move? And I was trying to get the SMSs here on 22422. Let me see if I can open this up very quickly. No, it seems to be giving me a if we can get an SMS at least, that would be fair. What's your next move in 30 seconds? I have one more question on the judiciary as we wrap this up.
My next move...
On this matter in particular, dissolve Parliament.
My next move is to continue the momentum. We will ensure that the women of Kenya, that the people of Kenya benefit from the Constitution. We've put in place a raft of measures, which include asking the donors, the people who give Kenya grants, to reconsider, because we cannot be having a government that has an insatiable appetite for loans that are not visible when they are put into projects. And Parliament has a role of oversighting. We want the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, the European Union, and all those players who contribute towards projects that are pegged upon oversight and approval by Parliament, not to disburse monies, because we have a Parliament that is illegitimate. We have an executive that is overbearing and does not want to follow the law. They must be held to account.
Okay. Speaking of being held to account, we know that a big transition will be happening in the judiciary within either the end of this year or very early next year, with the retirement of Chief Justice David Maraga and a process to select a new Chief Justice. What shape do you think this succession will take, Mr. President? Because already we have seen the Judicial Service Commission and its appointments are already such a high-stakes game. What do you foresee?
Maraga will leave very big shoes for his successor. He has always done that which is not expected, but that which is good in law. Is the Judicial Service Commission independent enough to give us another Chief Justice as David Maraga? I doubt. The Judicial Service Commission has been penetrated and captured substantially by the state. And it is for this reason that I want to call upon magistrates who are going to elect their representatives to the commission to elect somebody who will have the capacity to defend their rights as magistrate. lawyers will be going to elect their female representative to the Judicial Service Commission later in the year next year. I want you to make a good decision. The same decision you made on the 27th of February by electing me. That can give us 2 members in the Judicial Service Commission. You can see the determined effort to ebb out members of that commission who are not compliant with what the state wants. Perhaps it may be an opportune time for us to reconsider exactly who the Judicial Service Commission, as currently constituted, is serving. It is not serving judges, it is not serving advocates.
That is your view.
It is not serving members of the public.
Okay, I'm sure they would have something different to say about that. What happens in the interim, as my last question? What happens when the Chief Justice goes on terminal leave? Who takes over temporarily?
What happens is what will happen when Chief Justice Willie Mutunga retired. There is no lacuna. There may be a small interface of transition. It is expected that as soon as the Chief Justice leaves, there will be a recruitment for his successor. And I want to encourage judges who have demonstrated their resolve to uphold the law to run for this office.
Okay. I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. Let me read one last. Okay, so John Buddy had actually sent 2 questions in one. He had asked, ask Havi how he intended to occupy Parliament. Next time he comes to occupy, I will also bring my voters to accompany me to his office to explain to them why they should be asked to take a fresh vote. Let him prepare enough tea for my voters. I can give you a last word if you want to tackle that.
Let me not respond to Mbadi.
What's your last word in 30 seconds?
Let me not respond to Mbadi because I do not want to degenerate to the level of the triviality or the sublime because that is the level he occupies.
So no comment, in other words?
Let him remain on his level.
9 months in, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate your performance?
Look, it is a fool he who seeks to evaluate himself. I believe...
But it is not. It is also important to constantly...
No. The people of Kenya, in my opinion, have rated me very highly. In fact, I'm often asked, who was the president of the Law Society before you? The only person who remember was Eric Mutua, Tom Ojenda, Paul Mwite, Willie Mutunga. It is impactful. And see, as I said, when an elephant passes through a place, you'll be able to identify and see that an elephant passed here and an antelope passed here. But it's those in the wilderness who have the eyes to see. On my part, as the elephant, I do not see what I've left behind. I can only be told.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your time. Thank you for joining us on Newsnight. That was Nelson Andai Havi, LSK President. 9 months in, he's got a style that has been termed as abrasive by some. In fact, the word arrogant has been used. I should have asked him a bit about that, but I guess I know what he would have answered. And those are some of his thoughts on questions that some of you have had. I've tried to read as much feedback as I can. But that's where we're going to have to wrap it up. We're way over our time. Thanks so much for everyone who's tuned in and sent us your messages, 22422 and the hashtag Newsnight. Thanks once again to the President for making time. And on behalf of the whole team that makes this show possible, asante sana for tuning in and stay safe wherever you're watching us from. Remember, on Newsnight, we intend and always try to interrogate the issues that are important to you. And we'll see you again next week for another episode. Stay safe and have a good night. My name is Wahiga Maura. Our sign language interpreter has been Joki Shege. Good night.